What does this peaceful Chinese oil painting village have in common with the largest wholesale electronics markets in the world? Believe it or not, they're a lot more alike than you'd think. And the similarities explain a lot about how Chinese industry and manufacturing is organized. And it's so cool and way different than anything I'd ever experienced before coming to China. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, but you're not subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and the little bell icon next to it so that you're notified of future videos. I also want to thank Audible for sponsoring this video. More on that in a little bit. I'm here in the Dafen Oil Painting Village, which is probably one of my favorite places in Shenzhen, second probably only to the electronics markets. Now, they call neighborhoods like this urban villages, where you've got like the apartments above and then like workshops and retail spaces and whatnot down below, even though this probably isn't what you think of when you hear the word village. It's world famous for producing a really high volume of oil paintings, particularly Impressionist art reproductions, especially Van Gogh. If you've ever seen a reproduction Starry Night, chances are it came from here. In recent years, it's evolved beyond just mass-producing Starry Night and sunflowers and moved into also doing custom portraits and original art. Across town, here in the Huachang Bay neighborhood, are the world's largest wholesale electronics markets and the epicenter of the Shenzhen electronics manufacturing ecosystem, which is known for producing a large percentage of the world's electronics. If you have a hoverboard or a Toy Drone or a cheap pair of Copy Beats headphones, chances are it came from Shenzhen. And there's a likely chance that at least some part of it came through one of the companies that has a booth here in the markets. So what makes these places so similar when on the surface they seem so incredibly different? You might have noticed they both have roots in creating low-priced copies of Western goods. But that's not actually what I'm talking about. Now, you would be right. Both places do have a reputation for copying that's at least partly deserved. And while both of them are working to move past that towards creating original products and works, the reality is it's still part of the business here. But if all you come away with from this video is a further strengthening of the old stereotype that all Chinese people do is copy things, then you're missing the most interesting part. What I think is so interesting about these places is how the industry is organized and the incredible opportunity that that offers both to insiders and to outsiders. And I think we can stand to learn a lot from it. They're both made up of tons of small, independent businesses that are super specialized, working incredibly closely together, both collaborating and competing, doing the one thing that they're really good at. Let's take a deep dive into how they're organized and try and figure out what makes them so chaotically efficient. First, we start with supplies. For paintings, you need paint and you need canvas. There are shops all throughout the neighborhood selling both. For electronics, you need tons of different parts and components, ranging from chips to screws to batteries. There are distributors and factory booths all over the market selling these. And then you need various specialized services, things that might require expensive machinery and that just don't make sense for everybody to try and do themselves. For many paintings, both reproductions and for custom portraits, the painter will lightly print a copy of the painting on the canvas using a large format inkjet printer. Now, it doesn't make sense for every painter to own their own inkjet printer because they're expensive and honestly they would sit idle most of the time while they were painting. So instead, there are print shops in the neighborhood that will take your canvas, take your picture via WeChat, and print the picture on the canvas for a very small fee. Similarly, for electronics, you need a PCB, or printed circuit board, to solder all the components to. It's essentially the wires that connect everything together. This needs to be custom designed and manufactured for every version of the product. I made a video last year about how PCBs are made. You can watch that here. But needless to say, you need a lot of machines and a big factory to make PCBs. So there are factories that do nothing but make PCBs. And a lot of them have booths here in the markets where you can take a look at samples of their work. Similarly, there are framing services and custom keypad manufacturers and PCB assembly services, aka PCBA, that will solder the components onto a circuit board for you. Next, you need tools. If you're a painter, that means things like paintbrushes, palette knives, easels. For electronics, this is everything from solder pots to screwdrivers to oscilloscopes and other test equipment. Both areas have tool shops that sell all the specialized tools you need for their respective industries. I have a bunch more I want to show you, but first, I want to take a quick moment and talk about the sponsor for this video, Audible. I sometimes see comments talking about my dedication and determination, which honestly I think is pretty funny because I think of myself at my core as pretty highly distractible and lazy. Only relatively recently have I figured out how to actually finish things and keep going when I hit a setback. And one of the things that's really helped me with this is the book, The One Thing. If, like me, you feel like you really struggle to focus and finish the big things that you dream of, I can't recommend listening to this book highly enough. You can download it, as well as heaps of other audiobooks to help you become a better person on Audible, as well as Audible Originals, which are exclusive audio stories told by actors, journalists, and more. Audible is going to give you your first audiobook for free, as well as 2 Audible Originals when you try Audible for 30 days. Visit audible.com/strangeparts, or if you're in the US, text strange parts to 500-500. Again, that's audible.com/strangeparts, or text strange parts to 500-500. Now, let's get back to exploring oil paintings and electronics. Now, we haven't actually talked about who makes the finished product yet. For paintings, it's obvious. It's the painters themselves that are taking all of that paint and supplies and tools and services and turning that into the finished painting. For electronics, it may not be immediately clear though. It certainly wasn't to me when I first came to Shenzhen. The equivalent of a painter in the electronics world might be called the contract manufacturer if they're making a product for somebody else, or just a manufacturer if they're making a product to sell themselves. The important part is that they're the ones finding and working with all of the component suppliers and subcontractors making or supplying all of the individual parts, and then putting all those parts together during what's typically called final assembly. And this is where you would typically see the long assembly line of people with the big conveyor belt running down the middle. We're not done yet though. We still need to package up the product or painting for the end customer. For electronics, that means putting it in a nice box with the logo and name and features and barcode so that it can sit on our store shelf. These shops along here will make you custom packaging to your specifications, or they'll sell you generic packaging that you can buy straight off the shelf. For paintings, I think the equivalent is framing. There are a ton of framing shops here in Dauphin that will make custom ordered frames for your painting. Finally, we have to actually ship the end product to the customer. International shipping, particularly from China, is a complicated dark art, especially when fragile paintings and electronics with batteries are involved. There are logistics companies that specialize in packing and shipping products in both Dauphin and Huaqiangbei. They can handle things like customs declarations, and they also serve as middleman for companies like FedEx and DHL, and they can also do things like sea shipments with, if you want to ship an entire container of something. And so now we come full circle, from basic supplies to a finished shipped product. And with the exception of maybe some chips and some brand name oil paint, it's all been done by either individuals or very small companies working independently, but in really close cooperation with each other. This is unlike any industry I've seen in the US. Maybe it was like this 100 years ago. This model offers such incredible opportunity for people with some hustle. For the most part, everything's happening out in the open and is open to everybody. If you want to participate as an outsider, you can just physically show up and find a place for yourself. Whether it's as an end customer buying a pre-made product or having one custom made, or whether it's taking advantage of all of the parts and supplies and learning how to put it together yourself, or if you end up remixing the existing services in new and exciting ways. But regardless, nobody's gonna refuse to sell you a part or a service. You're free to come and hustle alongside everybody else. Between 2000 and 2012, 64% of China's urban population went from lower class to middle class. And the correct response to those numbers, in case you're wondering, is holy banana balls, Batman. That's incredible. And I think partly responsible for that is ecosystems like Huaqiangbei and Dauphin. And with that, I'll turn it over to you guys. Do you think places like this should exist? And if so, what should we be doing as societies to encourage them to flourish? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, if you know other places like this, I would love to come visit. So let me know about that too. I wanted to add a little bit of a footnote onto this story. At the beginning, I mentioned that China is trying to move away from manufacturing other people's goods for them based on their designs and move towards manufacturing goods of their own design. And one way this has been dubbed is moving away from made in China and moving towards created in China. And literally, while I've been out shooting this video, Dafen has been renovated around me, presumably to help encourage this shift. All of these alleys here that I'm walking down had painters' booths in them 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and they're all gone now. They have been tearing out a lot of the painters' workspaces in the narrow alleys like this one. This had painting spaces in it, had people actively painting in it probably 3 days ago, 4 days ago. It was also super hard to find any of the large format inkjet printers. I looked everywhere and I couldn't really find a single shop. 2 years ago, they were everywhere. There were 10, 15 shops. So I don't quite know what happened to them. All of the footage that I've used is stuff that I've shot in the past from previous trips out here. Is all this renovation and change good for the people and artists of Dafen? Will it be a place where someone can work their way up from nothing and make a living for themselves and create a successful business? Only time will tell. I really, really hope so. If you'd like to learn more about Dafen and the painters here and their lives, there's an amazing Chinese documentary called China's Van Goghs that I can't recommend highly enough. I'll put a link to that down in the description. But completely out of sheer luck, I happened to meet one of the painters in that documentary, and I got the chance to sit down with him for tea.
You're very famous now, partly because you were in this film. How has your life changed since this film came out?
那就像生活一般来说，画画呢还是没改变，但是我会自己在提升，慢慢的在提升自己啊。有些学习的我们该学习还是要学习，但是扣洋方面呢，还有包括这个订单是多了很多啊，包括这些人过来找拍照的啊，还有。慕名而来订画的这些是真的是挺多。
And so how long have you been living here in Dafen and painting?
大分91年过来到现在已经28年了。
Dafen must have changed a lot in that time. How is it different? What was it like 28 years ago compared to now?
91年过来的时候，大分还是一个小山村，地下都是泥土来的，而且这些高楼没有的，最高也是2层。
I'm Scotty from Strange Parts. If you enjoyed this adventure, hit that subscribe button down below and that little bell icon next to it so you're notified of future videos. But for now, stay tuned for more adventures. I'll see you next time.